Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to OMC. My name is Jose Torado. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Emergency Management and Communications for the City of Chicago. I want to share a few quick reminders before I turn it over to the Mayor. As you know by now, OMC is coordinating public safety efforts for the DNC, which kicks off today and runs through Thursday. OMC has activated the city's Emergency Operations Center to monitor citywide activity during this time frame. You've heard me say this before, but it's important for me to say it again. If you see something, say something, and I'll repeat that. If you see something, say something. Please report any suspicious activity to 911. I also encourage you to download the OMC app to stay up to date with information on the convention. We're looking forward to a safe DNC and a safe week for the residents and visitors of Chicago. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Brandon Johnson. Mayor.
Thank you, Director Torado, and good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Let me just briefly say that I am tremendously, profoundly grateful to the collaborative aspect of this assignment. Our police superintendent has worked diligently, not just with our local police department, but with local departments as well as the Secret Service and federal agencies for the last several months. And that collaborative approach is truly the spirit of who we are in this city. And we also could not have done this without the hard work of the everyday Chicagoans, led by my Chief Operations Officer, John Robertson, that has ensured that every single city department and sister agency came together to respond to this moment. The city of Chicago is really good at things like this. It's the reason why we have hosted more national and political conventions than anywhere else in America. There's a reason why Time Out magazine rated us #1 as it relates to conventions. And so the people on the front line who continue to work, to our OMC, to our firefighters, our EMTs, our Chicago police officers, and again, our streets and sanitation, I can name a bunch of everyday Chicagoans, transit, CTA, bus operators, train operators, who've all come together to respond to this moment, and we are ready. We are ready. With that, I will turn it over to the Police Superintendent, Superintendent Snelling.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor. And I'd also like to thank Executive Director Jose Torado, who's been a great partner in this. And good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First, also, allow me to thank my leadership team and what a great job they're doing. As you see to my left, we have Chief standing here, Chief Dwayne DeVries, who has overall command of the DNC. We have Chief Antoinette Ursitti and Chief Yolanda Talley. They've all done a great job. Now standing here, Chief Angel Navales, who's also doing a great job, and Deputy Chief Jill Stevens and Deputy Chief Chris Papajuano. I can't say enough about the work that they're doing, especially with our officers. We know that the DNC is kicking off today, but yesterday we had a protest and a protest group out there, and our officers responded exactly the way that we trained them, to respect First Amendment activity. We were able to talk to the organizers in the beginning. They expressed exactly what they wanted. There was mutual respect there, and because of that, we didn't have any incidents. So just a great job, and I really want to thank the organizers for keeping the protest peaceful, because that's what we're looking for. They were able to have their voices heard. They were able to speak. We gave them that opportunity and a platform to do it, and we protected them while they were doing it. So we had officers out there on foot, bikes, so they were protecting the entire corridor, traffic, direction, making sure that the businesses were taken care of, but most of all, making sure that our citizens were safe while this protest happened. So we're expecting large protests throughout the city for the rest of the week. We're prepared for that. We hope for the exact same outcome for every protest, that everyone gets to express their First Amendment rights. We don't have any incidents. If that occurs, then we've had the most successful Democratic National Convention that we can imagine. So we don't We would prefer not to have clashes. We would prefer not to have to make arrests if we don't have to. And we will avoid those things as long as we're not committing acts of vandalism or violence. We must protect our citizens and we must protect our city. I drove the route yesterday, all day yesterday, last night, checked on a few things across the city. Our officers are out there. They're out there. They're highly visible. And we have officers not only along the corridors downtown, in and around the venues of the Democratic National Convention, but also in our neighborhoods to continue to protect our people who are living in areas where they're the most vulnerable. So we want to make sure that it's clearly understood that our officers are protecting the entire city, not just one location. So we're going to continue that. We're going to continue to keep our officers looking good, staying professional, because that's what we want, that professional interaction. And I just cannot say enough about how our officers responded yesterday. Just an excellent job, and I'm proud of the Chicago Police Department and the way that the Chicago police officers responded. We could not do this well if those officers didn't step up and work the way that we trained them to work and they remembered their training, and we'll continue to work that way. With that, let me introduce Secret Service Deputy Special Agent in Charge, Derek Meyer.
Thank you, Superintendent Snelling. Thank you, Mayor Johnson, and thank you, Executive Director Torado. I could not ask for better partners over the last year than you three. My name is Derek Meyer, and I am the Deputy Special Agent in Charge of the United States Secret Service's Chicago Field Office. The security plan for the 2024 DNC would not be possible without the help of our federal, state, and local partners. I'm proud to finally put that plan into action. The DNC is a national special security event, which means the federal government's full complement of resources are available to provide a safe and secure environment. I want to stress there is no better partner the Secret Service could have than the City of Chicago and the Chicago Police Department. Superintendent Snelling and CPD are world-class partners. The City of Chicago has had great success when it comes to hosting large events. Just this summer, the city hosted NASCAR, Lollapalooza, and the Air and Water Show. That's only to name a few. Like Chicago, the Secret Service also has a proven track record of securing big events. This is the 79th National Special Security event that the Secret Service has hosted. This is the second this year that the Chicago Field Office will host. The Secret Service supports people's First Amendment rights to express themselves freely and lawfully. We're aware of activities planned throughout and during the convention and are working with the Chicago Police Department to make sure they are safe. There will be some impacts when it comes to traffic and parking, but we have done our best to minimize those disruptions through public outreach. I'm looking forward to a safe and secure DNC. Thank you.
We'll now open this up for questions.
We have microphones. Mary, start there. Tom, you can start.
Hi, Alice Gate of the Chicago Tribune. This question's for the mayor. Mayor Johnson, you had a recent interview in which you described the war in Gaza as genocidal. Can you talk about why come out now and use that label, and how do you reconcile that position with your role in also celebrating the Biden-Harris administration this week?
October 7th terrorist attack we condemned in very certain terms. The first major city to do that. The acts of terror that were executed by Hamas, we've condemned them. We've also called for the releasing of hostages and for the end of this war. You can condemn terrorism and call for peace. It's actually very customary within our tradition here in Chicago. Dr. King called for that. People across America are calling for that, for the immediate releasing of hostages, the end of these acts of terror, and the end to this war. And I will continue to stand by that position because it is the moral position.
Good morning. Question for Superintendent Snelling. Sam Charles from the Chicago Tribune.
How you doing, Sam?
Good morning, Superintendent. Obviously, the DNC goes through Thursday. Are days off canceled for all officers between now and Thursday? And is Friday the day expected to where things kind of get back to normal?
That's correct. We just want to make sure that we have the appropriate amount of manpower out there to deal with this. Obviously, though, we know that can be a strain on officers and their families. This is why every district commander and every member of leadership has a wellness plan around officers, just to make sure that officers are hydrated, they're getting breaks, they get an opportunity to rest, that they're nourished. We know again that when we look at cognition, we want our officers to be well when they're responding out there. And yesterday was an example of that. You know, when our officers are well rested, when they know that they're being taken care of, they take care of others. So, yes.
Superintendent Julie Bosman with the New York Times. Were there any arrests related to protests last night? And do you intend to let the Poor People's Army march inside the security perimeter today?
So what I'll tell you about the arrest, there was an arrest of a 23-year-old woman. She was charged with defacement of property and resisting and obstructing a police officer. She was not inside of that march. It was separate from that march. So I'm not going to associate that one individual with the peaceful protest that was put together by that group. So there was one arrest, but it was not inside of that footprint. Oh, I'm sorry. And the second part of it, no one will be allowed within the secure perimeter of the DNC. All right. This is a matter of national security. We want to make sure that everyone is safe. We saw what happened in Pennsylvania. We're going to make sure that we secure everything so that doesn't happen here. We have a great partnership with the Secret Service. We're in constant communication with them. Our partner, Derek Meyer, just a phenomenal partner. Can't say enough about that. And we're communicating, and we're going to make sure that we protect that area.
Superintendent Snelling, Martin Costi, NPR. Yesterday, the spokesman for the coalition to march on the DNC said that regarding the length of the route that they've been trying to get longer, that basically the size of the crowd dictates where people go, Chicago rules, implying that people might start departing the official route. What's your philosophy if people start going to side streets, that kind of thing?
Listen, the length of the route doesn't matter. We've seen early on with some of the protests that started last year, upwards of 10 to 15,000 people. And it wasn't about the length of the route. It was about the control efforts put in place. Number one, the organizers. The organizers in some of these protests have done a very good job policing themselves and policing each other. They've worked with us in partnership. We've talked to them because if we know what those routes are going to be and the direction they're moving, then we can do our best to ensure the safety of everyone within that group. If you watch us and if you watch the way that we've been training with our bikes, we have a way of keeping everybody in line and keeping everybody on the route. So this won't be a log jam. We're going to make sure that if anything happens that we have to call an audible on to make sure that everyone is safe, we will do that. But just keep in mind, there's traffic throughout our city. There are intersections that we have to make sure that everyone gets through safely so that there are no car accidents or someone who decides to drive into a crowd. So we're going to make sure that we protect everybody.
Good morning, Superintendent. Michelle Gallardo with ABC 7. My question for you is, and you already alluded to this, obviously yesterday you had your first chance to see how the training of officers would play out with, the first of the many protests that is going to happen this week. But of course, today's the big day. It's going to be significantly more people, tens of thousands potentially, versus hundreds. So is there any, difference in what we saw yesterday to what we will see today? Yesterday we saw the bike patrols. Certainly there was no riot gear in sight. I'm sure that was on purpose. But when you're dealing with potentially tens of thousands of people, does that change? Do the officers today, will we see them in protective gear? Are there any differences, majorly in what we will see compared to yesterday?
No, what you're going to see, if we see more people, you will just see a fuller effect of what you saw yesterday. As far as riot gear, we don't need officers out there in riot gear if people are protesting peacefully. What has been questioned is, can the Chicago Police Department respond to First Amendment activity without arresting people or without it turning violent? Yes, we can. And there's no reason to have someone out in riot gear if no one's rioting. If people are out there having their voices heard, expressing their First Amendment rights, which we saw yesterday, there is absolutely no reason to be confrontational. We actually want people to speak out, say what they need to say, and it's not about agreeing with what anyone has to say, it's about respecting it. And we're going to respect people's constitutional rights, and we're going to make sure that we're not escalating anything. We want to make sure that this goes off safely and everybody gets the opportunity to have their voices heard.
Hi, Mayor. Heather Sharon, WTTW. Can you give us a preview of what you're going to tell the convention tonight, and what do you hope people, after they leave Thursday, Friday, will tell their friends about Chicago?
I would hope, thank you for that question, I would hope that people walk away from Chicago in love with the city as much as I'm in love with the city and as much as the people are in love with this city. And there are a lot of great reasons to be in love with this city. 20% of the world's fresh water is in our front yard through the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence. Electricity came to life here in the World Fair. You know, the city that launched, the consciousness of America through the writings of Ida B. Wells. I want them to understand that profound history, from electricity to the Model T to Carnegie to quantum computing. That all rhymed, didn't it? Maybe I should say that tonight, Heather. But I want them to know that, Chicago is a love story. A black Haitian immigrant, a Potawatomi woman at the banks of the river set up a trade post so that the entire world could come together and exchange ideas and hopes and aspirations. And that's what I want people to walk away with, and that's essentially what I'll articulate tonight.
Good morning. My question is for Superintendent Snelling, Carmen Maras with Univision. How many federal agencies and from other states are here assisting, and how are the resources being distributed inside and outside of the perimeter?
Well, I wish I could give you a number, but what I can tell you is I swore in a large number of mutual aid officers who came in from all around the state and Milwaukee. We also have the state police here. We have the Cook County Police who are helping out with that. The Capitol Police are here. We have agencies from across the country here. Most of our mutual aid officers are from right within Illinois, and with Milwaukee being the outlier. They are in charge of a lot of the infrastructure. So a lot of the locations where we know need to be secured, this is where we have the mutual aid partners distributed. This frees up our officers to be out in the field because of the extensive training that those officers have. We would rather have our officers patrolling and responding to these incidents rather than having someone from outside of our agency do those things.
Chief Snelling, good morning. My name is Tarso with Bloomberg News. I have a question for you. Are you concerned about the protest that will happen outside the Israeli consulate on Tuesday? Their slogan is "Make it great like '68."
Well, listen, I'm concerned about a lot of things. And when we become concerned about things, the more important thing is what can we influence? All right, so what is our response going to be to any situation that happens? Listen, it's this simple. The Chicago Police Department is here to protect everyone in this city. We will protect people's rights, again, their First Amendment rights, their rights of expression. What we will not tolerate is intimidation. We will not tolerate violence. And we want every single person in this city to feel safe. And we will protect anyone from harm or danger. So anything that comes up where and I've said it a million times, where we think there's a potential for violence, vandalism, we will put an end to that as soon as it starts.
Superintendent. We understand that some bricks were found in and around Union Park by officers in recent days. Have any more bricks been found?
Not to my knowledge, but we keep an eye out for those things, because if we can stop that before it starts. Because look, when you have a large group of people who want to express their First Amendment rights, the larger number of that group are just simply here to do that. Sometimes you get lone wolf people, or you get a group that will infiltrate that group, and under that umbrella, they will try to commit acts of violence or try to escalate a situation. We're out there to stop that before it starts. So we keep an eye out for those types of things. So we're paying attention to that, and any intel that we get around those situations, we're proactive to stop it.
Good morning, Soup. Mac Leader, Minute Block, Chicago. Yesterday, about 200 protesters rallied outside of Navy Pier, and at one point, protesters had actually disrupted the stage, had got up there and spoke. What allowed that to happen, and how do you ensure no similar disruptions happen throughout the week?
So what I will tell you is they were given the opportunity to do that by the group inside. So they were kind enough to allow these people the opportunity to speak. So that was an agreement. So any other, so that wasn't a security breach. So when we know that there's a possibility of a security breach, we'll make sure, because we have officers there to stop that from happening. But that was an agreement yesterday.
That's the last question.
Hey, Sean Mulcahy, Chicago Reader. I just wanted to follow up on the Poor People's Army. So my understanding was that the city was required to grant a permit to march right in front of, like on Madison Street. Could you just confirm like how that squares with not being able to get inside the security perimeter?
So you would look into that. We're here. What I can tell you is this, because I don't have all of the information on that right now, so I don't want to give you any bad information. Here's what I will tell you. We know that we have people who will pop up and start to protest. Listen, we will handle that the same way that we handle everything else. We don't want to escalate a situation. And if all they want to do is have their voices heard and they're not disrupting anything, people will have the opportunity to express their First Amendment rights. So anything that happens like that, the spontaneous, will be there to handle it and keep it as peaceful as possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.